You have arrived to the Plunge Into Prosperity podcast, where sacred wisdom meets regenerative wealth. I'm your host, Brandi Kolosky of Sacral Capital. Now let's plunge in. Welcome back to Plunge Into Prosperity, episode 30. I'm Brandi Kolosky, your host and GP of Sacral Capital Fund and Sisters. My guest today grew up inside a 3-generation family business, learned how to solve problems before she could name them. She then spent 26 years leading disruptive innovation inside corporate America, from agile startups to Fortune 4 companies across financial services, healthcare, and mobile tech. She is a PMP certified project management professional and executive contributing writer for Thrive Global. She studied the foundations of positive psychology at the University of Pennsylvania, and when she saw firsthand how fractured family dynamics, generational misalignment, and unchecked biases were silently destroying wealth from the inside out, she didn't just write about it. She built an AI-powered platform to fix it. She is the CEO and founder of Equati. That's EQUATI, the first intelligent legacy technology for family offices that bridges generational wealth and values, and the founder of Stacy Idema Advisory executive consulting firm focused on decision environments and principles of change and transformation for leaders in their businesses. Stacy, welcome to Plunge Into Prosperity. It's an honor to have you.
It's a gift to be here, and I already have goosebumps.
Oh, thank you. That means a lot. And nobody knows this, but behind the scenes, I always like to do a quick little meditation with my guests and tap in and us get connected. And I felt you, Stacy. And your energy is really lovely, by the way. It's calming. So welcome.
Thanks.
Yeah, you're welcome. So for those that are new here, Stacy, please tell them why they should continue listening to this particular episode of Plunge Into Prosperity.
I have a feeling that we'll go a little deep and we'll cover topics that you may not normally talk about. I just have this feeling. So yeah, if you're interested in things that people don't typically talk about, stay tuned.
Yeah, definitely. I like to mix the spirit and science together, data and science and spirit all together. So for sure. And then how did you first discover your own personal definition of what true prosperity really means to you? How are you actively embodying it, stewarding that vision in both your separate work and life, and or how most people are doing it, merging it? What's that inside journey, that one bold plunge?
I think that bold plunge was saying yes to London and not knowing why. And so I actually don't even think that I thought of prosperity until I started walking that journey. And for me, it comes from the inside out. It's after years of chasing and proving. Yeah, it's prosperity for me starts with me.
Mm-hmm. Definitely. I couldn't agree anymore. So, Stacy, you've written that women are poised to inherit the majority of what some estimates put at over $100 trillion in generational wealth transfer. That's not a talking point. That is a seismic shift in who controls capital on this planet. So, talk to me about what that actually means for how investment decisions get made in the next decade.
So, there's a few layers to this. And the ones that are at least most meaningful to me that I think impact women the most are, for a lot of this, women are not authors in how that money was made. And now there's this impact of stewardship, and what does that look like? And while we can attach ourselves to what doesn't or does happen with women, such as the statistics around how many women get invested venture capital, or we can look at what and how we are leading ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
In the language and the stories that we tell, so that when this shift happens, are we prepared? Is our capacity what it needs to be? And what I mean by that is, what is our story that we tell ourselves about money? How do we see it? How do we invest? Where are we educating ourselves in not just the fiscal pieces of it, but the emotional storylines that we tell ourselves? And not only that, what we have told others about it.
Yeah.
I don't believe that it's just this is what it is, and now we're gonna have the money. As I like to say, if we don't change the story behind it, nothing changes, because we've not prepared ourselves more than just the structure and the fiscal piece. It has to come from the inside. and our belief system around it.
Very much so. And when you and I first met, we dived deep really quickly on this as well.
Yeah.
And how I've been healing trust with men, trust with money, and trust with men and money. And how all the way back 7 generations ago, my healer had shared with me that 7 generations, that's hundreds of years ago, women didn't own land, didn't have that type of wealth. They owned privately, personally. And apparently I was abused in all forms because of it. And I left, past or seeking justice. And so I've been anointed to not seek justice, because that's not the healthy path we take, but to complete the cycle, and seeing it fully through. And it's interesting, because I always had this fire in my belly to own a lot of land or farmland, and I didn't know why. And when I worked with my healer and she said this was only our third session, I was like, wow, it makes so much sense. It definitely does. And then continuing on the path of me with sacral capital, and then me going, okay, I need to pivot this and start bringing in women, and created Sacral Sisters to educate them on money is energy, and we have to start looking at it that way, or else we're just going to allow it to stay as a fear. And so, yes, you're definitely on to that.
And I'm glad that you brought that up, because you're right. And I think about a lot of things from the lens of physics, and not being a science person. When I really started to dig into polarity and apply that to really all aspects of my life, including money, to look at money as stored energy, in that it's available everywhere. There's so much of that storyline that gets lost,
Mm-hmm.
or we can get hung up on, okay, then why don't we have it? But at the
Mm-hmm.
end of the day, humans are emotional beings, and money needs to have a structure with
Mm-hmm.
which to flow through.
Mm-hmm.
It's not attached to worth. It's not attached to
It's a
it's not
current.
attached. Yes, yes. Just like torque to in an engine, right? What
Yes.
do you
Yes.
do with that energy? Nothing. If you don't wield it wisely, it doesn't. The outcome of it is not what we believe it to be. And
Mm-hmm.
so I'm really glad that you brought that up, because even as I think about the work that you do, right? You're creating structure for which women can utilize and steward money.
Yes.
And also
Also
we talk
receive it too. Yes.
and receive it. Yep. And we talk about legacy. And I think it's a novel word, because at the end of the day, we're really looking for continuity.
Mm-hmm.
And how do we think about things? How do we get to think about things? Not have to, but get to think about things in a really different way around that. So that not only do we challenge ourselves to think differently, but how then we wield it forward and create
Mm-hmm.
content. Because we impact the next generation in ways that we would have never imagined. And
Mm-hmm.
I to really dig into that when I looked at my storyline with money, what I grew up with, what I married into,
Mm-hmm.
and my boys.
Yeah, we talked about this. I was hoping you'd bring it
Uh-huh.
up again. Yeah.
And they're adult men now.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, we have more impact than what we often don't acknowledge.
Right. The societal programming there for sure. Yep, has kept us quiet. And you're a mother of boys, and then I have wanted to make sure that I'm not some like super feminist, and where I'm like, "Ah, F men," right? So that's where healing, with men and money and that trust with it has been really important to me, because I'm pretty sure you've also shared that, real change does require the collective, right? And on us working together. And how do you hold both truths at the same time? The urgency of redirecting capital to women, and the need to bring everyone in the room. And eventually, I do hope that, those 200 men globally that sit at the table every year to discuss how our economy and the people are going to thrive in the world, move, that hopefully 50% of that will become women as well. And so you said the current investment system, and I'm paraphrasing here, steeped in the masculine and barren in the feminine. What does it look like when feminine intelligence actually shows up in the investment decision-making process from your table?
Mm. You're touching on everything that equity in my advisory work is. When the feminine touches the masculine from the investment table, you're looking at, I'm trying to find the best way to say this in the easy way.
Yes.
Y- You're looking at not only the historical of what has been done, but you're incorporating those lessons. It's like
Mm-hmm.
the underbelly. You're not doing it just because of what you've always done. You're doing it and you're learning from that, and you're including other aspects of it. It's a very inclusive
Mm-hmm.
culture, at least the perspective of the feminine is. It's a very inclusive culture. And so you need both. You need that inclusivity and you need the structure in order to flow that inclusivity through. So from an investment, you're asking very specifically from an investment standpoint, you're including other perspectives. You're
Mm-hmm.
even if they've not been part of that decision-making process in the past, one of the ways to build trust is to create inclusivity. And there's
Mm-hmm.
multiple ways to include inclusivity. So if I look at this from a generational standpoint, some of the language is truly the next generation isn't ready.
Mm.
Well, if you flip, you can always flip everything on its head. You just might not be ready for them. There's a fear of
Yeah,
loss identity, fear of a loss of identity.
I've
The
witnessed this in first. Yeah, from dating billionaire sons, two different ones. They just thought that their sons weren't ready to,
yeah,
or it was just their generation wasn't ready to take on their family business or stepping up or so forth. And they just, and they didn't even engage, and they just would just dismiss their sons. And I don't know how, because I was raised, I came from nothing. But I ended up in these worlds. But I would be the one that would get their fathers to listen, and it was odd though, and like heal that for a moment.
yeah,
Yeah. Yep, yep. But then, the radical like responsibility of this is where you and I are stepping up. So take us inside of equity in the plainest possible terms. What does it actually do for a family office? What problems were you solving that nobody else was touching?
yeah. So equity first started as well, what was first how do you bridge the gender gap, the underrepresented founder gap? And when I started to do the research, that's when I started to dig into and understanding feminism and how it actually hurts men as well. And what does that look like to flip everything on its head?
Mhm.
So from that experience came equity, and equity is really all around decision environments. So for family offices, it is really helping them understand who's who is making the decisions, the influence that they've had, any voting specifically around it, the less about the financial aspects of it and more about the values piece of it.
Mhm.
Who who participated, who influenced, who had authority, what values were considered, what assumptions were present, and how did the decision evolve, and or how do they evolve with each particular type of investment. And this is very specific to direct investment, private market investments. So, and then lastly, how did the generations interact? So it
Mhm.
becomes less about what do we own? What is it worth? And what's the exposure? And more about how do you start building that trust to create that continuity? Those
Mhm.
other pieces are still very valuable,
Yeah.
but for the sake of creating that opportunity to bridge the gaps between the generations, this
Yeah.
is focused more on really answering those questions and tracking decision behavior over time.
Yeah. That's great. And then so equity uses proprietary algorithms and AI to match investment opportunities with family values?
Yes.
Yeah. Walk me through that.
So this is where we look at if a family has a thesis, we look at their thesis. That becomes part of the intake, as well as any fiscal and or other performance related details. We take in all that information, and then we take in the mirror of that from the business, along with the type of business that it is from an industry standpoint, different segments, and we match that. And in that, it's not a you need to invest in this. It's more of a we're putting all these pieces together and we're helping you prioritize. And with this, we're giving you the information in a consistent way so that every time you go out to all of the opportunities, the information is there and available in a consistent format, and you're able then to track those decisions over time. So that's the initial piece of it.
Yeah.
Over time, we intend to mature that.
And then in that, you talk about reducing emotional decision making as well. That's counterintuitive because most people think more emotion means more decisions, but you and I are the same. We're like, no, we're saying, we're not saying remove the emotion. We're saying bring it to light. And so with that, and then also with the women in the family or the sisters or, whoever that are coming in, I've noted, this is my thesis, that the reason why men aren't investing in women is, and again, this is thesis, but it's a really good one. They're so used to their experience with women at home, whether it be their mother or wife. And so when they go into business, they like to turn off part of that world, and or they subconsciously have those type of experiences at home with those women. So subconsciously when they're going into investing, they're like, oh, this is a woman. I'm going to experience the same thing that I experienced with her at home, which is all the negative traits, quote unquote, that they experience, which aren't really negative. But that's one of the reasons why they just don't lean in. They just go with what's comfortable, which is less emotion, and invest in the men instead as well. How are you seeing women in the dynamics of families investing together and their voice?
Yeah. Based off of what you've just described, I definitely can see that. And I would say my own thesis has matured a little bit. When I think about families and getting women involved, I believe there's a lot more quiet that's happening under the covers, and not for any reason other than those that understand what women do and what they do well. It's almost like a well-kept secret. And so I see that a lot more women are getting involved, and or they have been involved, but the women also aren't talking as much about getting involved and being involved. And I think that comes from a couple of things. One, there's a lot of responsibility, especially when you think about those who have access to that type of capital and are investing in businesses. And so there is some privacy around that we may not actually see and or hear. And I also believe that women in general, and this is where it's a bit of a tug of war with ourselves. We want the things that we cannot have. And then once we have it, we take it very seriously. And for the most part, we might even put our head down and get to work. And so there's a quietness about that. In addition, we take our responsibility very seriously. And so it almost, I guess I know for me, even just in the last 8 to 9 months, it becomes its own, well, you know this, just this journey of being an entrepreneur and raising capital and moving capital, it becomes its own personal development journey.
Yeah. And that's another topic I'm talking about tomorrow. So funny. I'm pre-prepping. And this is when I speak with any entrepreneur or human, is if you're not growing, you being an entrepreneur, it's going to force you to grow. Or if your business is growing, you're going to be forced to grow and be mirrored back things that you need to break down, have a death of or an awakening of, etc. And it will be painful.
Yeah.
But
And
I was a professional dancer back in my early life, and I've always seen from then, thank goodness that I had that experience, that where the pain is, then comes that beautiful dance that no one sees, right? They only see the beautiful dance on stage. They don't see those painful
yeah.
things. Yeah.
Yeah. And to that point, I think that's what happens with women. There's suddenly this, it's really the capacity. There's
Mhm.
this rush of the responsibility. You know, they focus, there's so much focus. The masculine focuses on confidence, competence, and capability. And when women show up, there's usually something a little bit different. And that's, the capacity. And how do we stretch ours? Not that men don't have that as well. It just shows up differently.
Yeah, the bandwidth. Yeah.
Yep, absolutely. And so back to your question about women, I see it less as that men are fearful, not that some couldn't be, but it's more of how do women handle it in that case? How do they handle it differently? And it's not bad. No one is right or wrong or bad or good. It's just how do we go about handling it? And
Yeah.
so I do see more women speaking up and choosing to speak up, and also navigating it's getting comfortable with the discomfort
Yeah.
of the discomfort. So I don't know if that answers your question. I'm
No,
kind of seeing a
it
variety of
it
angles.
does. No, I enjoy all of your angles because you embody them and live and eat and breathe them every day, I'm sure. So, and then let's go to London. So you secured your own visa and started a business in the UK. And then for any founder listening who's considering an international move, what did that actually provide for you?
London became a series of very serendipitous moments and then a very long rupture. But the international move for me, at least in London, it's very different than it is in a lot of places, because London is such a sought after city, especially in Europe and its
Mhm.
hub.
I lived in Chelsea for a little bit, I remember.
Yeah, that's right. Yep, we did talk about that. The London is a very beautiful city, fun city. I mean, you could do anything 24/7. There's stuff to do all the time, but it is a lonely city, a very lonely city, especially to be there alone, regardless of your gender. It's
Mhm,
how they build community is very different.
mhm,
But it provided me an opportunity to learn a lot about not only about myself, but about different and similar themes of humans, culture, and I kind of just threw myself into it. It was only
mhm,
meant 3 month stay that turned into a 6 month stay, and
mhm,
then I returned to the US and secured my visa, and then went back, and I was there for another 3 years.
mhm.
So, I
And why
guess,
did you take that plunge?
yeah, I went to London after I asked for a second divorce, and so it was really just I'm gonna go spend some time with myself. My boys are in their late 20s now, and this was 5 years ago,
Mhm,
and so it's really just to go be with me. And the first time that I was out in the city, because it was during the latter part of COVID,
mm,
I had been in London for 6 weeks before I actually got to go into the city, and
wow,
I fell in love right there. I was in Soho, and I listened to 4 different couples all speaking a different language, and I'm like,
yes,
"I need to be here."
yeah, yep, it opened but yeah, we tapped into how it helps also open up those different neurons, and because
Yeah,
the brain becomes more malleable when new smells and colors and sounds, etc., are all coming through, and then you start to become more creative. That's why traveling obviously is a beautiful thing, and many people should try to really really get that in. Yep.
couldn't agree
Mhm.
more.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I was just having a little brunch with women I hosted at Grand Central Station. The other day, I was in the city. I went to an investment conference, and some of the women I had already interviewed on podcasts, they already invested with me, or they're about to be interviewed on the pod, or I just met them at the investment conference and they were on the panel. So I just invited, and whoever showed up, showed up. And all the women, we, second divorce, first divorce, third divorce. And I'd never walked down the aisle, but I got married on paper to a man from Sweden, a guy from Sweden. We were in our late 20s and he was a yacht engineer, and I didn't see it then, but he went out to sea, and I had updated him on, I just signed Formula One electric racing as a client. And it didn't click to me until later on, that he left his yachting job to come live with me, and he loved me, and then started helping me with my business. But really, I was wasting my time teaching him, but he wanted to ride my coattail, because anyone who's next to Formula One, I didn't see it then, especially European men, it's like their dream. And so I ended up paying for everything, but then he just wasn't a fit. And I bought him new shoes and clothes and a plane ticket and sent him back to Sweden. And the one woman goes, "Oh yeah, similar thing just happened to me. 1 year now, I'm divorcing after only being married a year. I helped him with his business. Then he started resenting me. And now it's just, yeah, he was very mean." And so it's like, you know, we have to go through these experiences to get through our calling, and awakening and more insight. And it's that data again. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, it is. And in my case, I came to really learn I I wasn't truthful about me. I wasn't honest about what I really wanted.
Mm-hmm.
That little niggle, you talked about owning land one day. I
Mm-hmm.
used to sit next to my Barbie house with my office table, and I used to sit down and write checks as the CFO of my business for $1 million, and that was back in the early '80s. I used to have this big dream, this niggle, this thing that just wouldn't go.
Mm-hmm.
And it got to a point that I was resentful of them. And
Mm-hmm.
after it happened the second time, I had to ask myself, since I'm the common denominator here, what it
Mm-hmm.
is about me that I'm not being truthful, because if I'm not being truthful with myself, I'm not being truthful with them,
Mm-hmm.
irrespective of all the other pieces and parts that played into it, and then their responsibility. But as somebody who has been over responsible, I had to look at, where do I get to step back and say, I created this scenario, I
Mm-hmm.
to this, and now I have to make it right, because either way I'm hurting them and I'm hurting myself.
Yeah. Agree.
Yeah.
This is why I'm 41 and haven't been married yet or had children, because I only want that alignment, and I've made sure that I'm not being selfish, totally selfish, and not allowing myself to be open to those life-changing, amazing experiences. I just Everyone always compliments me, like, "You know what you want. You're like very you know exactly where you're going, what you want." And I'm like, "Yep." And I am both free flowing and spontaneous, but then I have some serious structure.
Mm.
Like, very organized. Like, it's yeah. And then I love to plan, but I like to be spontaneous. So there's this balance, and that's hard for a lot of people. Most people are not there.
To find when you do that creating that allows you to continue to keep coming back to. It's almost like it's at least how I visualize it, the way that you described it, it's almost like it allows you to keep coming back to your center.
Yes. Beautiful. Yes. Yep. In Puerto Rico, where I'm living now, there's this tree that I go to every day and I ground underneath, and it's a flamboyant tree. I just did research on it today, and I don't know if you know what astrocartography is, but where You do. So Madagascar happens to be one of my like super powerful areas that I need to be going to. And I've been tapping into wanting to go there. And so today I just happened to look up this tree that I always ground under in Puerto Rico because I feel like it's been my constant lately. Like it's because, building a business gets a little lonely sometimes.
It
So I'm
does.
like, it's
Yeah.
my best friend right now. And I looked it up.
Love
And
it.
even though the tree is thrives in the Caribbean, it's originally from Madagascar.
Fantastic.
And so I was like, it's like just got goosebumps in my head. It's these signs, that yes,
Yeah.
even if I'm not doing it because I'm living it, spirit and or the world or the universe is bringing it to me. Yeah. So I love even those smallest little areas of life that even they don't surprise me anymore, but they still surprise me. Right? Yeah. What constant are you coming back to?
I would say, honestly, my strengths, the strengths that I ignored
Yeah.
forever,
Yeah.
just who I am
Mm-hmm.
and what makes me me,
Mm-hmm.
and trusting all of it.
Yes.
Even on the
Mm-hmm.
days when it feels a little shaky, when I think about all the times that I didn't trust myself
Mm-hmm.
or guess myself what happened, and then the times where I was impatient about uncertainty.
Yes.
So,
Mm.
yeah, even when you talk about astrocartography, I've been researching it for years, but it wasn't until after I made the decision to move to Austin, and while I'm not there yet, Austin is my big
What is?
explosive. It is that in South Africa and south of Spain and France.
Okay. A couple of mine are in the middle of the oceans.
Yeah.
And I do love me a nice vessel. So I'll have to exactly. Yeah, you've been pinging back and forth with Arundhati, my right hand. I met her in Austin at the Texas Private Equity Conference, and I didn't really get to explore the city that much. I stayed in like a few block radius because there was a conference, but I felt the good. There's good energy there. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. And so, as far as community, you've spoken about the power of community and how, family offices do need like that coach or the guidance or whatever you're building or the consulting, etc. And also founders and, we can't do it alone. And I've created this Sacred Sister community for that. Is there any community of women or communities in general that you feel that you're genuinely a part of right now? Because I know we can't do it alone. And we have to remember that because our shadows are here. If we don't have a community around us, then they can't let us know what that mirror is, wherever it is, whatever's being tried to be told.
Randy, I so the short answer is I'm rebuilding
Yeah.
as part of this whole experience and
Mm-hmm.
not believing that I would ever move back to the US.
Yeah.
And then also getting really clear about where do I need to be. So
Yeah.
I think something that we've tapped on a little bit earlier is women have a tendency to do things because it's the right thing
Mm-hmm.
or because they feel obligated.
Mm-hmm.
And if you strip that away, it becomes a form of people pleasing.
Mm-hmm.
And so I've had to really sit with,
Appease you.
am I asking the right people to help
Mm-hmm.
based off of where I want to go? Or am I asking people who are safe? That doesn't mean there's anything wrong with them.
Mm-hmm.
And so I am rebuilding. So
Yes, that's
I
beautiful to
haven't,
hear. I clean
it,
house like every 90 days, by the way.
do you?
I just broke up with a girlfriend that's for the second time, a friend of mine, or she was a friend. I broke up with her 15 years ago, and there was also some business, not that we were completely doing business together, but business elements in the sense that she always told me, you inspired me, and she launched her own like a longevity or health clinic. But then she was utilizing me in not high integrity ways, but without me knowing. And then that was 10 years ago. Then we reached out again recently. And then it was like a couple things, one after another. And I was like, nope. And I told her to her face, I'm going to have to break up with you as a friend. So friends and business, I'm doing due diligence on humans and their companies, whether I want to invest alongside with them or if I want to build a JV with them or in a private equity play, or if I or the founders that we want as portcos. Within 90 days, I know if someone is of alignment, and I love cleaning house these days. Yeah.
You get used to, you seem to, I shouldn't say that. It becomes part of for me, it's become part of my integrity.
Yes, same.
It's not easy, and there's grief, but I have tools and I've learned to through that a lot differently than I had in the past.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah. Yeah. The potentiality of humans. I try so hard. I'm like, because we all naturally as humans, we want to see the good in people, right? But then you're putting them on a pedestal, and there's a lot more pain that can come with that than just a little bit of grief of letting them go later on.
Yeah, I think we forget how quickly we can evolve.
Mm-hmm.
People aren't always designed to be with us through the entirety of the journey, and just not to be a pit stop and not to use them. I'm thoughtful about that, but how do you build intentionality with everything that you do? Yeah,
Even family members sometimes are seasoned.
absolutely.
Yeah, even if they're blood and things. Yeah. Mm-hmm. So since you're rebuilding, tell me give me some core words or a sentence or something that would match the values aligned of this new community you're building now, so you can call it in.
For me, it's high integrity is one of them, but I would even say more so, I'm a systems thinker.
Me too.
And I like to be challenged, and I'm always open to a good trigger.
Yeah, me too. I embrace them. I'm like, wait, I'm feeling of some type of way right now. Hold on a second. Let's look into this. Like, I get excited, and I don't have really big breakdowns anymore. They're like tiny ones, and I just hug them, and so they come faster. But I don't mind if a big one is gonna come. I'm like, when is it? Like, because that means that I'm just gonna go shoot.
Yeah. So, I think my biggest desire is to actually work with people whom are friends, and to have that really deep respect for each other's different perspective, and also the desire to evolve.
Yeah. There's a woman I interviewed. She has a company called Curiosity Base. She did a TED Talk on curiosity, and that's the desire to evolve in all types of ways, right? Having curiosity for others and for yourself. Yep, it's a huge one, because people think curiosity is a trait, and it's actually like some people have it, some don't, and it's actually everyone has it deep within inside, and it's just pulling it out. Yeah.
It's a very active state.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. You can get curious in the silence though too. So where can people find you, follow you, connect with Equati?
Yeah. They can find me on LinkedIn. They can find me on Instagram. Yeah. Substack. I've started writing, actually doing essays. I'm in the throes of a book. The working title is Feminine Economics and Capital Systems. And so it's really not what do we look at from a completion standpoint? What's the underbelly of the things that we don't talk about a lot, because every structure needs a purpose. So I'm taking pieces of the book, and I've been formulating them into essays as well on Substack. So you can find me on Substack.
What is it your full name? Spell it out for our listeners.
I believe it's Kehren Idema. So SKEHRENIDEMA on Substack.
Okay, perfect. I've been ramping to beef up my Substack as well. So I'm excited to follow yours. And Stacy, I have to tell you the overlap between what you're building with Equati and the work we're doing here at Sacral, and as well as what you and I are doing in our personal lives, which then leads into these beautiful entities we are building. It's something, I want to keep exploring with you and with our listeners. And I think there's a longer conversation here, of course. So thank you for being an amazing guest on Plunge Into Prosperity, episode 30. I'm honored to know you now in this world. And for our listeners, thank you for plunging. As always, I'm Brandi, the host and founder and GP of Sacral Capital, Sacral Fund, Sacral Sisters. You can find us on sacralcapital.com and plungeintoprosperity.com. Until the next plunge, have a prosperous day, everyone.
Thanks, Brandi.
Thank you. Thanks for plunging into sacred wisdom and regenerative wealth with us. If your soul and your portfolio just got a glow up, hit subscribe on YouTube, Amazon, Spotify, and Apple. Share it with your crew. Tag us on social and join the movement at plungeintoprosperity.com. I'm Brandi Kolosky. Catch you on the next plunge.